Hey guys, I want to chat about my last month on Motion Array. This is one of the royalty-free music libraries that I work with. September was pretty epic. $5,000 is a big haul for 1 month from one single library. And that's in US bucks, which is like $7,000 Canadian. It's a lot of money. I'm super happy about it. I'm really grateful. I'm not making this video to brag about it in any way. I really hope this doesn't come across as some kind of flex. Rather, I just want to tell you why it happened and how you can implement a few really simple ideas to help optimize your music for music libraries and Motion Array in particular if you're interested in working with them. So let's quickly take a look at my profile here. So in September, I had 3 tracks that were all doing well on the library at the same time, basically. One of them was called Oh That's Real Good. It's a kind of a 90s inspired hip hop track. I think this track was submitted in June actually, but it did well throughout July and August, and in September it was featured as a staff pick, and that added an additional layer of exposure for it. And I was actually really inspired by Coffee Music, which is one of Audio Jungle's top selling authors, and he wrote a lot of like really 90s inspired hip hop. One of the members of the Production Music Academy actually submitted a track to me for feedback that referenced one of his tracks, and I immediately thought that, you know, something in that style could do really well on Motion Array potentially, and sure enough, you know, it did. And I think maybe that's because I wasn't hearing a whole lot of like up-tempo vintage style hip hop, like 90s inspired hip hop on the library. So I was really stoked that I got a lot of mileage out of it. The 2 other tracks that did well in September were called Synergy Supernova, and this one is kind of like a corporate track, just big, like inspirational kind of energy. And this track was briefly number 1 in the most popular of the month on September. Most of the time it was just kind of sitting in the top 5, but it also did really well in September. And then the 3rd track, which did well, was called Taste of Freedom. And this was another kind of 90s inspired hip hop track, and very much in the same vein as Oh That's Real Good. Maybe a little bit more like chilled, laid back. This track never got to the number 1 spot. I think it got around, like, it was somewhere in the top 20 of the most popular of the month, which is great. It was on the first page, but didn't get nearly as much downloads as Synergy Supernova and Oh That's Real Good. I had other tracks in the meantime, you know, roughly around the same time, like Neon Utopia here, which is like kind of a synthwave track, and Let's Get Started, also kind of like an up-tempo hip hop track, which didn't really do well. And you know, that's how it normally goes on this library. Everything's kind of hit and miss. Sometimes tracks just do exceptionally well. Other times they just kind of get lost in the sea of music. Cool thing about my artist panel here is that I can actually categorize these by downloads, and you can see how many downloads each track got. So right now they're being ordered by age. We just switch this to downloads. You can see that Oh That's Real Good is actually my number 1 most downloaded song, with Business Mastermind a close second. And Business Mastermind, as you could probably imagine, is you know, a very like corporate sounding track too. So far my most exceptional tracks on Motion Array have been in the corporate vein or hip hop. I think those are my 2 specialties. So why did this happen? Well, you know, first of all, I really try to give people what they want. The way I approach everything is really from like a service mindset. I'm trying to write music here which is you know, specifically designed to be useful for content creators, ad campaigns, you know, filmmakers, that kind of thing. I also pay very close attention to the music that's already doing well in the licensing space. I often ask myself, you know, how can I recreate some of these things that I'm hearing, but also put my own unique and creative spin on it. Now, I understand that like writing music for libraries specifically isn't exactly everyone's cup of tea. I often have this conversation with Eric, my co-host from the Make Music Income podcast. Eric's approach is very much like, you know, the way he describes it is that he kind of just writes whatever he wants without giving too much thought about how well suited it is to a particular library. Now, the way I think of it is that I also do whatever I want. I write whatever I want, but I kind of package it. I package the production in a way that's optimized for the library that I'm submitting it to. And in the case of Motion Array, I think I got a pretty good understanding of what's going to do well there and, you know, potentially where there's room for new ideas to flourish. So let me give you a few examples here. What I try to do a lot of times is, you know, make corporate-ish sounding tracks stand apart from all of the other stuff that I'm hearing on the library. I do hear a lot of like sort of audio jungle era flavored corporate music, and I think that corporate music has really sort of evolved since those days. And I know that, you know, some people just cringe when they hear the word corporate, but I think that there's a lot of room to infuse creativity because it's such an open-ended, you know, term. It doesn't really mean anything. To me, essentially, what it means is just like, you know, sort of an inspirational, uplifting chord progression where you can infuse any number of like influences, instrumentation, textures, and flavors like onto that canvas. With Business Mastermind, I actually did a live stream where you can watch me write this track from scratch. I'll make sure to link that above. In this case, I set out to, you know, write something that was in the corporate vein, but like maybe a little bit more electronic, kind of house inspired. Not like pushing any like major boundaries here or anything like that, but I think one thing that set this track apart from a lot of the other similar tracks that I was hearing on the library is that it's very like beat focused, and I'm also infusing some like interesting vocal textures into it. Something I do with a lot of different genres, but I hadn't really heard anybody do that with corporate, and it's subtle in this track, but I think it was really effective. If you're into writing this kind of music, by all means, check out that live stream. Another track that's a bit older, but did really well for me at the time is The Big Boss. And it's not that there wasn't any orchestral hip hop already on the library, but I was feeling like there was room to write something in that vein that was like really punchy and like really epic. And this song did really well. Also infusing some vocal textures in there. Nothing groundbreaking, again, just, you know, trying to put my own sort of spin on it and try to find a different angle. Another thing that I mention very often, especially with libraries where you're being paid per download, is like making sure to keep the intros really short, just because, you know, taking into account the behavior of the user scrolling through tracks very, very quickly, you really want to hit them with something like right out of the gates. And that's something I really made sure to do on Oh That's Real Good. Wanted to make sure that, you know, I'm hooking the listener in, like right in the first few seconds. It's really, really important. Overall, I think the vibe for Motion Array is, you know, for me, what works really well is like explosive energy, uplifting vibes, you know, just overall excitement. I'm not saying everything needs to be over the top. I've definitely had like lo-fi hip hop tracks do well on Motion Array too, which are by contrast, like very laid back, very, very chill. So all sorts of stuff works on Motion Array, but definitely, you know, just, you know, speaking from my own personal experience, hip hop and up-tempo corporate stuff tends to do really well. I think that Motion Array is a library where interesting new ideas and experimentation works really well. And I think that this is reflected in the types of tracks that are chosen as staff picks. I think that the staff picks page is really important, and I really recommend going to take a listen to some of the tracks that they're choosing as staff picks, because it gives you a really good idea of what the curators of the library are into and what they want to hear more of. Based on what I've heard, I think they really appreciate you know, creativity and originality. So I'm always asking myself, you know, how do I dig into some of the genres and styles that are doing well on the library, and, you know, write something similar while also injecting my own unique creative energy into a track. And overall, I think that's, you know, a really good strategy for doing well on any library. And also just identifying where there may be some gaps in the library, you know, delivering something that you think might be a really good stylistic fit, but doesn't sound like anything else. And that's hard to do. I think it takes some experience, but I think that's a really good strategy. I got to quickly shout out some members here from the Production Music Academy. This is the online community that I run where I teach everything I know about producing music for licensing opportunities. You can check that out at productionmusicacademy.com. I'll put that link below in the description. There's a few members as of late who have, you know, really applied themselves and are starting to see some amazing results on Motion Array specifically. So shout out to Alex B and Topher, you know, who have been killing it on Motion Array for the last couple of months. You guys have been doing some beautiful work. I'm really impressed. And I did a great interview with Alex B, in case you missed it, a few weeks back, where we talked about, you know, just dealing with rejection, pushing through and finally getting accepted on some of these libraries that you're hoping to work for. Highly recommend going to check out that talk. It's a great chat. I'll link that up above. I also did a full track breakdown of one of Topher's sessions for the Academy members exclusively. That was a lot of fun. I believe that Topher just had his first 4-figure payout from Motion Array last month. So big congrats to you, man. That's awesome work. Big shout out to members John and Gareth, who were also recently accepted. I'm sending big love out to all the members of the Academy and everyone in this community. I love hearing about other people's success stories. It's inspiring to me. And also, I got to shout out the Discord server too. You can find that link in the description. Come join the Discord chat. It's totally free to join, and you can chat with a lot of these folks yourself, ask questions, share your work with the community. Everyone in there is super friendly and really, really helpful. I don't have a lot of people that I know where I live that are into this like music licensing thing. So it's great to connect with people all over the world and just get different perspectives on things and just get inspired. That's it for me, guys. Thanks so much for listening. As always, if you got some value out of this video, hit that like button for me, subscribe to the channel, and please, by all means, throw your thoughts in the comments below. Feel free to ask me anything that's on your mind about music licensing or Motion Array. I'm happy to help. In the meantime, take care. I will see you guys soon. Peace.